Welcome everyone to Mexican Excellence. My name is Citlalli. In this portion of my YouTube channel, I am going to dedicate it to my video series called Decolonizing Academia. And for a long time now, I've been wanting to introduce you all to one of my favorite professors. I've already got my master's degree. I'm already working on towards my PhD. But this professor has definitely impacted my life and my view of history tremendously. So before I introduce Professor Aki, I wanted to tell you a little bit more about how I met him and why he's joining us tonight. In 2005, 2006, I was attending East LA College, and I started my journey of decolonization in '97. But I had a love-hate relationship with academia. I didn't think that academia was open for truth-telling, for talking about the real history of Mexican, Central American, Native folks. So I was really disappointed with academia, really disappointed with Chicano Studies department. And I didn't see a future for myself in academia. I felt like there's no way people are going to listen to me. What I want to teach is not going to be doable. And then one beautiful day, my best friend Arlene, shout out Arlene, she told me about this professor. She's like, you need to take Professor Aki. He teaches history 11 and 12. She's like, he talks about the genocide of Native people. He talks about the deconstruction of identities of Hispanic or Latino. I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, Aki, what name is that? And she's like, oh, Japanese. I was like, what? Like, a Japanese professor at East LA College teaching all this important, vital information. And she's like, yeah, you need to take him. So there I was. I think it was around 2005 or 2006. I registered for his class. And, for all the students that have taken his courses, my jaw dropped. He did not waste any time. He went straight to the source. He went straight to the material. His lectures were passionate, educational, factual. The way the information he would bring in, the articles he would have us read, they were hot off the press. They were journal articles. These were historical reviews. This is like what, grad students are reading. And he was doing this at East LA College to community college students who were always written off as, not the best students. They're going to community college because their grades were not that good in high school. So to have him bring in all this information and the way he taught and the way he treated us as students, I was completely, inspired. I said, wow, if this is what it's like to be a history professor, if this is a reality of what I can hopefully be one day, I told myself, I need to change my major. I need to take all his classes. I really need to learn more about what it takes, right, to be a history professor. And so years went on, the work that he introduced me to, like the article from Kamala Townsend, Burying White Gods, that I always talk about on this channel. The framework, the articles that he brings me, I still have my binder. I still have my notes that I took in his class. And to me, it was a beautiful example of what the potential is of a history professor. Because not everyone teaches like Aki. And those of you who know Aki know he is really committed and dedicated to what he does, to his research, to the community. And he could be teaching at UCLA and UCs 100% of the time. But no, he's committed to, in helping and guiding students of color. Those are the schools that need him the most. And let me just read you a review. I'm going to read this review. A student wrote a review of Aki back in 2015. And just to give you an example of how, he's impacted students, he wrote, he will teach you how to write at a college level. He does not sugarcoat it. He is tough but fair. I have great respect for this professor. If you plan on furthering your education into the UC level, this professor will prepare you. No Scantron test in this class. This is an essay class. He teaches you to think critically and analyze. He is the best professor. The last reference I'm going to give you, this is a student in 2017. This student wrote, having Aki for a class not only taught me about the past, but how it affects us today. His lesson plans are interesting. He's very open to discussion and very different opinions. At the end of the semester, he brought us home some homemade cookies. You could tell he's extremely passionate about his job. And with that, I wanted to kind of introduce him so that you know why he's here with us, why he's sharing space with us. And me personally, he's been someone that really impacted me at that time in my life where I was really lost. I didn't want to go to college, but I was there because I figured, okay, there's something good that's going to come out of this, but it completely inspired me. So first of all, thank you, Aki, for being that role model for me, for having the courage to be a truth teller and to make us challenge us to think critically about history, about the world, about policy, about race, gender, class, all those things that you break down. And so for everyone watching, I want to introduce you to Professor Aki. Aki, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you so much, Citlalli. Wow. That's hard to follow. I guess I can start off by talking about where I come from.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes.
And in doing so, I have to speak about it in an intersectional way. Okay. I was born in the 1950s. Okay. And so, and in an ironic way, in a post-World War II, post-Korean War, right, era, okay, and a post-concentration camp era, because my family was in concentration camps during World War II. They were forcibly evacuated from their homes and businesses and had to endure that experience, okay? And that trauma gets handed down into the next generation, which was my brother and I, right? Or my generation, which they call the Sansei, or third generation, right? And so, as a child growing up, I would always hear about, oh, what camp were you in? Or what camp were you in? And, that kind of thing. And as a child, you think summer camp, you think, what the hell is a camp? You know what I mean? And it never hits you what the trauma is when they talk about camp, right? It's the things that aren't being talked about, but you could feel it. You know what I'm saying? You could feel that there's tension, right? There's certain things that conversations will start out in one direction and all of a sudden stop and switch into another direction because it's starting to get controversial or something, right? And as a child, sitting on my mom's lap, listening to adults talk about their camp experiences while they're playing cribbage, or I don't know what the fuck, bridge, card games and talking amongst one another. In the post-war period, people were moving back to LA from where they were relocated to. Okay. And so as people were coming into LA from the 7 different states that the concentration camps were located in, they would meet people from all over the United States. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing about the camps, is that it brought Japanese Americans on the mainland together. Because prior to World War II, they were spread out all over the place. In fact, there could be months or weeks where you never saw another Japanese American person, right? You're surrounded by whiteness, or you're surrounded by blackness, or you're surrounded by brownness, but there's not that many Japanese American people here. You understand what I'm saying? Prior to World War II, there was only, I think, about 150,000 Japanese on the mainland, on the continental mainland. In the entire mainland, right, 150,000. And at the time, the US was 120 million, right? And so, Japanese who? You know what I mean? Oh, I think that he's not Chinese. You know what I'm saying? And so World War II brought all these people that were scattered all over the West Coast, right? Between Washington, Oregon, and California. And then somewhere in Idaho, somewhere in Utah, but they were spread out all over the place. And World War II brought us all together in concentration camps. Okay. And the concentration camps were a tune-up experience racially. It was to tune up the Japanese for the post-war period because the U.S. already knew it was going to conquer Japan. And they needed a Japanese force, if you will, to be complicit in the occupation. This is where Japanese Americans come in, right? And this is how they get racially tuned up prior to, during, and after the war. They get tuned up to serve whiteness, okay, and accept anti-blackness, right? This is what they're being pushed into, and it comes with blood sacrifice, where the combat unit that was all Japanese American suffered 88% dead. Not wounded, baby. 88% dead, right? 3 times. 3 damn times. And if you think about why that is so tragic, right? No white unit in World War II, whether they were in the Pacific or the Atlantic, right, took higher than 5% casualties. If they hit 5%, they would pull back. Okay? And so why is it that when it came to Japanese American segregated soldiers and African American segregated soldiers, their casualties were so high? You understand? Black soldiers were getting wiped out on the battlefield. Japanese American soldiers were getting wiped out at the battlefield. And this is looking at War Department reports, right? This is in the statistics, the documents of the War Department, right? And when you look at this, it's like, the hell's going on, right? And so does the massacring of Japanese American men and African American men on the battlefield, how does that perform to the people back home? Right? What does it do to the Japanese Americans in the concentration camps? Right? What's the message being sent to them when there are mothers in the concentration camps that were 5-star mothers, right? Gold star mothers, right? In other words, every son they had was killed in the war. Every son that they had died in Europe, right? Now, you saw the movie Saving Private Ryan, right? And that woman only had 4 sons, right? And when 3 of them died, they sent a team out there to go get that 4th son and send him home, right? Well, how come they didn't do that for her in a concentration camp? How come all 5 of her sons got wiped out? How come her whole next generation got wiped out and nobody gave a damn, right? And she wasn't the only one. There were dozens of 5-star, 4-star mothers in Hawaii that lost their whole family. Their whole family tree was gone, right? And so when I talk about intergenerational trauma, right, for Japanese Americans, it's the pre-war, war, post-war period, right? That centers that intergenerational trauma, that what we call today anti-Asian hate, right, was like right up front from 1905, and it still is today, right? It still is today in different manifestations, okay? But it still includes Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans in that racial structure, okay? And so I grew up in this mix, if you will. And in the neighborhood I grew up in, Boyle Heights, East LA, for the first part of my childhood, and then City Terrace for the second part of my childhood. And it was like night and day, okay? Because when I was under 5, there were still white people in Boyle Heights. I mean, like, every other house was a white person, okay? And then there was Mexicans, there were Japanese, there were African Americans mixed in. But right after Brown versus Board of Education, white folks started disappearing from East LA. And I remember when the last one left, because his kids and us used to play together. It was his Jewish family. And I remember I got up on a Saturday morning and all I wanted to do was go over their house and play, because they had great toys and shit over there. I mean, they were pretty well off Jewish family. And we were like poor, you know what I'm saying? And so I walked over there and I knew something was wrong, right? Because I looked in their picture window of their apartment and it was empty. There was nothing, the furniture was gone, nobody was there, right? And I remember I'm like 4 years old, standing there looking in the window, like in shock, because I had just seen them, you know what I'm saying, a few days earlier. No goodbye, no write me at this address, oh, we're moving over here, nothing, just gone, right? And that hurt me at 4 years old, right? This whole, fuck, I'm not even fucking human to them. You know what I mean? And I would always look up to the guy because we found out that he was John Wayne's stuntman. Like every time John Wayne fell off a horse in a movie, it was this guy. Every time John Wayne got shot with an arrow, it was this guy. And I watched John Wayne movies just to see my neighbor in those. I didn't care about John Wayne. I wanted to see my neighbor, right? Because I knew him, you know what I mean, right? And my brother and I would always try and figure out, was that him? I mean, we can't see his face, you know what I mean? And so we would study his body and see if it was his body shape, and you know what I mean? And he goes, oh yeah, that was me. And you would see his name in the credits, you know. But yeah, that really hurt, right? We thought they were really nice people, and my brother and I would go there and play with their kids, and we were both the same age, right? One of the boy was my older brother's age, and the girl was my age, okay? And we had talked about going to elementary school together, right? Because we would have to go to a desegregated neighborhood school, right? That's why they moved. They were not going to send their kids to school with us brown, yellow, black kids. You understand what I'm saying? And they were Jewish, right? And so there's these contradictions, right, that I'm growing up with, okay? The other thing about growing up in the 50s and 60s is that I grew up in the milieu of the civil rights movement and racial violence, open racial violence everywhere, in my neighborhood, on the news, you know what I'm saying? We could wake up one day, go outside and watch cops beat the fuck out of somebody. Right down the street, you know what I'm saying? Or on our street, you know what I'm saying? And it was like, if it wasn't happening, it wasn't our neighborhood. Okay. Even when we got old enough to ride bikes, right? We would ride our bikes down Atlantic Boulevard, all the way to Long Beach, all the way to the harbor. Okay, where the boats are and all the big ships and shit. Right. So we would go see the military ships. Right. But in order to get to Long Beach, down Atlantic Boulevard, we had to go through Downey. And, you know, our fathers and uncles would tell us, when you go through Downey, you make sure that you go down and you don't mess around there, you don't fool around there, you just keep going and go through and don't stop. Right. And so we noticed on the big street that cars would try and hit us. Right. As we, you know, because we would bike on the street. Right. And so we said, oh, fuck that, man. And so we started paralleling Atlantic, but on inside streets. Right. We would go like a couple of blocks in on a residential street and parallel Atlantic as far as we can. Right. And then come back out in Atlantic to cross like a freeway or something, and then go back out, and so that we wouldn't get anybody attacking us on the main thoroughfare of Atlantic, right? As we went through Downey, and as we were going through people's residences, right? And there's like 10 of us on Stingrays, 1-speed Stingrays, right? Not like these 20 fucking speed mountain bikes they have nowadays, right? It's like slow or run your ass off as fast, because it's only 1 speed. You know what I'm saying? And as we were biking down these residential streets, we would see curtains pull back, right? We know they're watching us, right? We know it's all white. And next thing you know, you've got like pit bulls, German shepherds, Great Danes chasing you. And white folk are letting their dogs out to sick us. I'm serious, right? And so we all started bringing Dodger bats, right? Those little souvenir Dodger bats that you get at Dodger games, right? And we would have Dodger bats in our belts. And so when those, you know, because you cannot bike faster than a damn dog on a 1-speed bike. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna get you. and all the damn dogs will bite at your ankle, right? They always bite at your ankle. And so we would get the baseball bat, smack it, bam, right? And once you smack one of those dogs and it cries, the rest of them stop. It's kind of like, oh shit, we could get hurt. and then we would split, you know what I'm saying? But it was like going through a hostile territory, right? Just getting from Boyle Heights past Downey into Lakewood, right? Once we were into Lakewood, we were fine. Okay. But getting through Downey, oh my God, we had people come out throwing rocks at us, bottles, trying to pop our tires. They would break glass in the fucking street in front of us. They would call us, this is where I learned multiple choice racisms towards Asians, right? Because they call us every damn name in the book. You fucking chinks, you damn jabs, you slant eyes, you this, you that, you know. And we would be like, well, which one is it? You know what I mean? You know, and well, it's all the same. You're all the same, you know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it sounds so idiotic, you know what I mean? When you're 7, 8, 9 years old, right? And you're thinking, is it something wrong with this person? But this is how you grow up with it, and it becomes normalized and naturalized, where you learn how to accept and accommodate trauma, right? And assaults and aggression all the time. And how you learn to accept your inferiority, if you will, right? Okay. Your subordination, if you will, because it's constant, right? It's always there. Even when you're not going through it, the memory's still there, right? And when you hear somebody say, oh yeah, man, we're going to go bike down to the harbor and the battleships are landing and, you know, that kind of thing, your automatic thought is they got to go through Downey. And you always tell them, hey, watch out, you know, right? Watch out for this street or watch out for that, right? Because it's common knowledge, right? I mean, everybody knows it, right? Everybody knows it. And then when I moved to City Terrace, there was a white cop that used to patrol at night, right? Only at night. And he would take his police hat off and replace it with a 10-gallon white cowboy hat. And so they called him Cowboy, right? And if he caught you outside after 10 o'clock, by your damn self, he would put you in his car, right? Cuff you, put you in his car, drive you up to Dittman where there's a chain link fence over a cliff, right? And then he would chain you, he would cuff you to that fence and beat you with a rubber hose till you blacked out.
Wow.
And then he would uncuff you and roll you over the cliff. I'm serious. And it didn't matter if you were male, female, child, adult. If he caught you, you got whooped. And he was one of the most feared and hated cops in City Terrace, okay, because of what he did to people. And I was at Belvedere Junior High at the time, right? I had gotten kicked out of a Catholic school, Marino, where all the Japanese kids went. I didn't want to go there. I was going to Breed Street at the time. All my friends were Mexicans, blacks, right? And I didn't hang out with the Asian kids. I hung out with the Mexicans and the blacks. You understand what I'm saying? They was into sports. They was into fun shit. You know what I'm saying? Fucking Asians, oh, I got to go to Japanese school after regular school, and fuck that shit. I want to play. You know, and the Chinese kids, oh, we got to go to Chinese school because their parents are strict and stuff and make them do all these. They got to learn English and Japanese, English and Chinese. You know what I'm saying? But my mom wasn't like that. My mom and dad wasn't like that. And so when my older brother decided he wanted to go to a Catholic school, that he don't want to be in a public school anymore, all right? Because he wants a better education. That was the assumption, that if you go to a private school, you get a better education. In fact, when you go to a private school, you pay more money, right? Because you're getting free education at a public school, right? And so you pay more money to get less educated. It's actually the opposite of what people believe, because you're getting a religious education, not a factual one. Okay. And so it creates problems. But anyways, that was my first act of protest. I don't want to be there. And I let it know, right? I let it be known I don't want to be there, right? And so first day of class, the teacher says, you know, oh, this is the new student, says my name. Could you get up and introduce yourself, right? And I just sat there, all right? I don't want to be here, all right? And so I ain't going to answer your questions. I ain't going to do what you asked me to do. I want to go back. I want to go back to Hollenbeck. I don't want to be here. You know what I'm saying? I want to be with my friends, my homies. and then I got to wear these charcoal damn pants and a white shirt and a bow tie. The fuck? You know, where are my jeans and t-shirt? And so I ended up protesting. And Sister Peter Mary, bless her soul, she would try and teach me, right? But I would, you know, I'd go home to do my homework and then throw it away before I go to class. And so, you know, because I got to do my homework because my parents got to see me doing my homework, you know what I'm saying? So they think I'm taking care of business. And then I throw it the fuck away. You know, I throw it in a trash can as soon as I got to school, right? Because they pick us up on a bus. And then Sister Peter Merritt say, okay, everybody turn in your homework. And everybody walks up to the little file thing and puts their homework in there, except me. And she'd be checking me out, right? Because she catches it. She got to grade everything, right? And there ain't nothing to grade for me. And so I did this with the understanding as a child that if I don't do anything, I don't take no tests, I don't answer your questions, you got to fail me. And I remember the contract I signed when my dad forced me to attend. The school says if you fail all your classes, they kick you out. And so that was my goal. Kick me the fuck out so I go back with my homies. And so, bless her soul, Sister Peter Mary. She went behind my back and talked to my mom and dad, right? And found out, yeah, he's doing his homework, right? But I'm never turning shit in, right? And so she would come to me at nutrition because I wouldn't even interact with them. I would sit by myself in nutrition, just isolate. You know what I mean? I don't want to be here. Don't want to know y'all. You know what I'm saying? Get me back to my homies, right? And so I would isolate. Lunchtime, nutrition time, I'd just isolate. And she came to me and started asking me questions, okay? And she'd say, well, what do you think about Charlemagne? And I'd look at her and I go, what do you mean? What do I think about Charlemagne? She goes, well, do you think he was a nice guy or do you think he was a bully, right? And I go, I think he's insane. but you all made him a saint. You know, the hell, you know. And she kept asking me questions about stuff we were learning, right? That goddamn sister, man, she didn't fail me. She gave me a fucking C, right? And I got my report card. I went, you know, I was like, that, where's my fails? and she goes, oh, I can't fail you because I would talk to you at nutrition and lunchtime and realize that you were doing the homework and you knew the material, but you just weren't turning things in. And so I gave you a C. Right? And I came this close to cussing out a sister. and she even looked at me and hugged me and she said, I could tell you're not happy. You know? And then I met Sister Maehara. I didn't know it at the time, but she was a Marino liberation theologist. Okay. But I didn't know that at the time. And she was very active in the movement. And like I said, I didn't know that at the time, but I got very close to her, unlike with Sister Peter Mary. But Sister Maehara was pulled away from Marino about 1/3, about a halfway through the first semester, right, fall semester. And her and Sister Etta Ford, right? I'll put her name up. Etta Ford and Sister Maehara were sent down to El Salvador. Etta Ford was one of the 4 elderly Marino nuns that were captured, tortured, gang raped, and murdered. Right? And she was my tutor at Marino. Sister Maehara was sent into Central America, and she was disappeared. Right? She's one of the martyrs, right? The disappeared, the desaparecidos, right? She's part of that tens of thousands that were disappeared in Guatemala, right? You know, and so I'm in the 7th grade, and the shock of that, right? Especially a sister that I came to love, right? Because you know, the love just poured out of her for everybody. You could see it. I mean, the way she treated everybody. And I couldn't be mean to her like I was to Sister Peter Mary. It was just impossible. And so that relationship made a big impact on me. She was replaced by a very white supremacist woman who didn't like students of color. And we had a couple of students in our class that were half white, okay, half Japanese, half white, and she favored them. And they were some of the most bullying, aggressive, assaultive people in our class. And they got into this thing of they were going to send notes to me in class, right? Making fun of my mother in a sexual way or in a physical way. And then I would write notes back to them about their mother. You know what I'm saying? And so Miss Nelson intercepted the note that I was sending back to David Gorfin. And she read it. She flipped it over and read what he wrote, right? And then she grabbed me by the top of my hair, stood me up, and this woman is about 5'10", stocky build, right? She must weigh close to 190 pounds. I'm in the 7th grade, right? What do I weigh, about 80 pounds, 90 pounds? And she closes her fist and slugs me right in the face, okay? And I'm thinking, you know, I didn't start this. This is, white boy started this, right? I'm responding to white boy. And I said, well, what about David? Why aren't you picking him up and hitting him, right? I mean, I come from the east side, baby. You hit me, I'm gonna fucking hit you back. You know what I'm saying? You know, and so she drags me off my desk and into the hallway and hits me again, right? And she's citing scripture to me. I don't even remember what scripture she was citing, but damning me to hell and everything. And then she takes me to the stairway, right? She's dragging me to the principal's office, gets me to the stairway, and she's yelling and screaming at me. And then my Japanese teacher's door is right at the top of the stairway. His door opens, and he could see my face is swollen from where she slapped me and slugged me, right? And he could see her fist is balled up, and she's holding me by my shirt like this, right? And he's also my karate teacher, okay? And I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me, and he goes like this. He goes like this. That means if she tries to hit you again, fuck her up. That's coming from my sensei, right? And so I'm thinking, he's giving me permission to hit her, right? And so I looked at her and I said, don't hit me again or I'm gonna hit you back. And she said, what? Right? And then she started scripturally calling me a demon and Satan servant and all this kind of stuff. And she reared back. And so I smacked her. You know what I'm saying? And I didn't smack her hard, but I guess she got shocked by it. And she stumbled down the first flight of stairs. Okay. Yeah, and I thought, well, at least she rolled. she shouldn't be hurt, you know. And then she jumped up, screamed all the way to the principal's office, yelling and screaming that I assaulted her. And there's my Japanese teacher saw the whole thing, right?
And how old were you at this time?
I was in the 7th grade.
7th grade, okay.
Okay. And so anyways, I get kicked out of Marino. I finally get kicked out of Marino. And my dad got pissed, right? I got a whooping, right, from my father. Because that's a better school, da, 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 da. I hated it, right? And I didn't give a damn. And so he demanded that I go there and apologize, right, to Mrs. Nelson and the principal, right? And oh, hell no. Why do I have to apologize for something I did not do? You understand what I'm saying? Right? Oh, hell no. Right? And so my dad whooped the hell out of me like 3 times until I agreed to go apologize. And so there I am, all bruised up and shit. And I go into the rectory, right? My fucking dad makes me get on my fucking knees. And then Father McKillop comes out, right? And he says, do what you said you're going to do. And at that moment, right, I'm looking up at this white boy with a frock on, right? And he's red, right? Because he's mad at me. You know what I'm saying? You know how white people get when they get mad, like, they turn like a tomato. And so I'm looking at him, and he says, what you did was really wrong. And but if you're willing to take, you know, responsibility for what you did, and it kept gnawing at me that I didn't do nothing. Okay, right? But he lectured me, and that broke it. That broke the camel's back. And my father looked at me and said, well, say what you're supposed to say. And I said, fuck you. I said, Father McKillop. He said, wow. I said, fuck you. And you too, Mrs. Nelson. Right? And he kicked me. Fucking Father McKillop kicked me while I'm on my knees. Right? He wanted to hurt me. And so my dad would not let me go to Hollenbeck. He was going to punish me for getting kicked out. So he sent me to Belvedere. Okay. And he wouldn't buy me no jeans or no t-shirts. So I had to go to fucking school in my charcoal pants and a white shirt, like a private school reject. You know what I'm saying? Right? And so I already knew they're going to make fun of me. Bullies are going to pick on me. You know what I'm saying? Right? And so the first day of school, I met this guy, Carl Romero. And he looked like a caveman. His nickname was Caveman, you know, kind of guy with no neck and broad and, you know. And I went up to Carl and I said, hey, who's the baddest dude at Belvedere Junior High? And he looked at me and he goes, what do you want to know for? I said, just tell me, man, who is the baddest dude at Belvedere Junior High? And he goes, I'll show him to you at recess. And I said, all right. So we go on the quad at recess and he points at this guy standing on a table, right? And he looks like a miniature Atlas, right? He's all muscled out and shit. In junior high, right? I'm thinking, well, fuck, he looks bad. You know, damn, he got a lot of muscles for being in junior high. And so I said, okay. And then I asked a few other students, right? Who do you think is the baddest student on this campus? They all said, Willie Soledad, right? They pointed to him. Same guy, right? So the 4th day of my first week, Willie Soledad was standing on the table at lunchtime, just minding his own business, right? And I walked up there and whooped his fucking ass. I just grabbed him, started boom, 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 right? You know, just out of the blue. And we got hauled in the principal's office, right? And while we're sitting there waiting for us to get kicked out or expelled or suspended and shit, Willie looks at me and goes, why the hell did you fuck me up, man? And I said, I'm sending everybody a message on this campus. Don't fuck with me, right? Don't fuck with me. Because when I was at Marino, they used to jump me every fucking day because I was from a public school. They even stabbed me with pencils. I had to go to the hospital to get a half a fucking pencil removed from my stomach that they broke off inside of me, right? And so when I got to Belvedere, I ain't gonna take that shit anymore. You understand? Right? And so me and Willie Soledad had an ongoing 2-year confrontation. Right? I mean, didn't end for 2 years. And then he went to Garfield and I went to Roosevelt. Right? He joined the Garfield football team. I joined the Roosevelt football team. And our rivalry continued in the Roosevelt Garfield game. I mean, our coaches would get pissed off because we would not run the play. We would just try to kill each other on the field, right? Our coaches would get pissed off. The hell were you doing? But that's Willie. and the Garfield coach be doing the same thing to Willie. You're supposed to be blocking this other dude, but that's the dude I gotta get that dude. And then we became friends. Yeah, it's funny how it works out. But even through all of this, we had the Watts riots, right? Emmett Till was killed in '55, right? 2 years after I was born. And when I would look at my family album, my mom had his picture in our family album, in his casket. You understand? With the headline and shit. And when I would ask her, why you got this next to my and my brother's birthing pictures, right? And she would always say, so you know the world that you came into. So that you know the world that you were born into, right? And when she said that to me at 4 and 5, I really didn't understand what it meant, right? Till much later in life, after I reflect on it, right? But my mother was very sensitive to the civil rights movement, to people being mistreated in America, right? Because of my grandfather. My father, on the other side, he kissed a lot of white ass. Okay. He was racist, didn't like Mexican people, didn't like black people. We lived with Mexican and black people. And he wouldn't even say good morning to them when he leaves the house, right? Wouldn't acknowledge them. They would talk to him, right? And he would just walk right by them and go in the house. And I'm playing with their kids. You understand what I'm saying? And so I'm looking at my dad like, the fuck is wrong with him? I mean, here's my tia Maria Gonzalez, you know what I'm saying? She's teaching me how to use a molcajete and grind up corn and make masa and help make tamales and, you know what I'm saying, and tortillas and stuff. Fuck, it's fun. You know what I'm saying? I was having a great time. And he's going to diss her? You know what I'm saying? Right? Christmas time comes and I help make over 100 tamales, right? With my tia, you know, with all the women and stuff, right? Because they're the ones making tamales. All the men are getting drunk. You know what I mean? And so she brings 24 tamales over to the house, right, for Christmas. And my dad won't even open the fucking door. Yeah, I'm kind of like, the hell is this?
and when you went to high school, you ended up going to Belvedere, you said?
Yeah, I went to Belvedere, then I went to Roosevelt.
You graduated from Roosevelt?
In 71.
71. And then you went to Vietnam right after high school, or when did that happen?
Within 6 months after. Well, I was in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Within 6 months after graduating. But you got to understand, right? When I was in the 8th grade, I went up to Delano with older guys that I knew that were already at Roosevelt. And we met Cesar Chavez on his hunger strike, right? And then I came back and met Bert Corona and helped organize the East LA grape boycotts. Okay. And then in 68, I forget his name, Sal Castro, over at Belmont, organizes the first walkout against racism in education, right? And in 69, it goes citywide, right? It's not just Belmont. Now, out of the 40 high schools, 28 high schools coordinate a walkout. We shut that motherfucker down, right? And that was the second year. And then the third year, right, of the walkouts. And then we have the Chicano moratorium against the Vietnam War, right? And so there's a lot of stuff happening when I'm in junior high and high school, right? We get the formation of the Black Panther Party, the formation of the Brown Berets, right? Okay. And so a lot of stuff is going on regarding police brutality in the community, segregated schools, defunded education. You know what I'm saying? That's what we still have that today, right? Inner city schools get 60% of the fucking funds that white schools get, you know? And so we still have that disparity today. It's even worse today. And then we have Vietnam, right? And the Chicano moratorium against the Vietnam War. I was part of the Roosevelt Organizing Committee in support of that. And then I get to go to Vietnam. So, you know, you're hit by this fear, right? Because at the time, a lot of activists were being targeted by the draft. They're going to send you out there and get you killed, so you don't cause any trouble in the United States anymore. And they called it Operation Phoenix. Where draft boards would target Black, brown, and Asian activists, get them drafted, and send them to Vietnam to get killed. Okay? That's how the US was trying to deal with grassroots organizers at the time. And targeting youth and college students. I'm serious. The land of the free and the home of the brave. Okay? And so imagine how I felt burning my draft card, right? And then coming home, a friend of mine from the neighborhood and I went to go see Enter the Dragon so that we could date ourselves. It was the premiere at Warner Brothers Studio, right downtown LA at Broadway Theater. And we were so impressed by it. We went to go see an afternoon movie and then hid in the bathroom when it ended so we could see it again. And we did that twice. We watched it 3 fucking times, right? A 2.5 hour movie. And so we were gone practically all day and half the evening, right? Okay. And we didn't have nothing to eat except a hot dog and a bag of popcorn. But we were very impressed with the movie. And so we come back on the bus to our neighborhood, right? We get off the bus on Alma and City Terrace Drive, and we start walking up the hill to our homes. And Maria Elena, an 11-year-old girl in tears, right, with a torn t-shirt, right, comes running down the hill when she sees us and tells us, "Run, get out of here, get out of here. They're looking for you." And we see the lights, the red lights, the blue and red lights flashing up on the street, right? And I asked her, I said, "Who's looking for us?" "The cops. The cops are here to arrest you." "For what?" "Because you're draft dodgers." Burton and I had burned our draft cards. And the cops had kicked in our fucking doors, beat our fucking mothers and fathers, ransacked our fucking homes to arrest us, and we weren't there. And they arrested 6 other people down the street, Chicanos, that had burnt their draft cards and beat their mothers and fathers. You understand what I'm saying? And so I said, fuck, right? And all I could do is I went straight down Evergreen and went to the Agape Fellowship, the Christian Fellowship, and I said, "I want asylum," right? And they said, "Well, do you believe in Jesus Christ?" And I said, "I'm Buddhist." And they said, "Well, do you believe Buddha's God?" And I said, "I guess so. I don't fucking know, you know." And they said, "That's good enough. Come in." And they gave me like a closet to sleep in. I'm serious. There was only enough room for like a mattress, a single mattress, right? And there was a light on a wire hanging from the ceiling. That was it. And the light switch was on the outside of the room, not on the inside. So it was like a closet. You know what I'm saying? No windows or nothing, right? That's where I got to stay. And they only provided one meal a day. I'm serious, right? And so you get to use the phone once a week. And so I would call my mom and say, hey, they only give us one meal a week here. Can you bring me down some fucking food? Right? And so on the way home from work, she would drop off food to me because she couldn't make it at home. My dad would kick her ass. Right? And so she would pick up stuff like from Manuals or El Tepeyac or from Little Tokyo and then drop it off to me. So I would have enough to eat the next day. You understand what I'm saying? And that went on for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then this friend of mine showed up and said, hey, I've got the answer. If we join the Marine Corps on the buddy plan, they promise that you won't go to Vietnam. And they put it in writing, right? It was in writing, okay? So I thought, well, shit, you can't beat that, right? So I said, all right, fuck it, I joined, okay? Rather than go to 10 years prison in Leavenworth. That's what I was looking at. And I get to boot camp, right? And we're on the buddy plan. We have a contract that me and this guy are supposed to stay together all the way through the Marine Corps, right? And not be sent to Vietnam. You understand what I'm saying? That's in the fucking contract, right? And I get to the Marine Corps recruitment depot in San Diego, and the sergeant says, can I see your paperwork? To my friend and I, right? And we both have our files with the contracts in it. And he takes out our contracts and he rips them up right in our face, right? And he sends my friend off to one platoon and he sends me off to another platoon. And so it hit me that, damn, we just got lied to. And there's nothing we can do about it, right?
What was your friend's background?
He was Japanese American too. Actually, his family was from Peru. And during World War II, the United States forced Peru to round up all their Japanese Peruvians and send them to the concentration camps in the United States. And so his family lost everything in Peru. When the war was over, they didn't send him back to Peru. They just said, get the fuck out of camp. Gave him $25. Bye, see ya. And so they don't have citizenship in the United States. They don't have citizenship in Peru. Where are their legal rights? You understand what I'm saying? And so that's the family that that he was with. And I found this out later, okay, after maybe 10 years later, okay? But he and I ended up in the Marine Corps. He spent a career in the Marine Corps, just retired a few years ago, okay? And I got my ass out of the Marine Corps as soon as I fucking could. You know.
So with all that, how did you end up being a history, how did you get into history?
You can't be committed to social justice and not be involved in history. Because when you look at social justice issues, they're not just present. They're not just present issues. They affect every single generation back from you, right? And as you learn about people's histories and you learn about the struggles they fought for self-determination, for freedom, for liberation, right? This is what defines social justice, is that history of struggle, right? And so how can I be committed to social justice, environmentalism, and not know history, and not know the historical injustices, right, that have been constructed over time that have led us to where we are today, right? And how it's affected not just my group, right, but every group that it's impacted. How did it impact every group, right? And so breaking away from a nationalist perspective, right? Breaking away from that. Because the first reaction to being attacked racially is to respond with your own race, right? And so it's race against race, right? And that doesn't solve anything. All that does is deepen racisms, because it's race hating race, right? One race has got to be supreme over the other race. It's a never ending conflict, okay? and so separating ourselves from the nationalist beginning that we all have, right? That natural reaction to race, and understanding it as a human condition. How does it affect different human beings from the same center, the European center, right? How does it affect Native Americans? How does it affect Africans? How does it affect Asians? How did it affect Pacific Islanders, right? How did it affect Central and South American natives versus North American natives? Because those three different experiences are unique, okay? Even though they have a great deal of similarity, okay? And so how do we understand those unique but linked experiences when we talk about racial oppression, class oppression, gender oppression, and how they intersect with each other, right? Okay, over time, over history. And once you look at it that way, there's no other choice. There is no other choice but to tell the truth about what you see, right? And by telling the truth of this global phenomena that affects all of us, right? And to tell the truth about how it affects each of us, right? In our group formations and our intergroup formations, right? What I'm doing is I'm opening up doors and windows that students can walk through or see through, right? That they haven't walked through or seen before.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Right? And when they walk through that door or they look through that window, what they're seeing is so different than what they're used to understanding as the truth, right? That it shocks them, right? It just right up front shocks them, right? And so where do you go from there? You have a choice, right? Your reality's just been discombobulated, and now you have a choice, right? You can get used to asking questions that further discombobulate it, right? And by getting answers to those questions, self-define who you are, right? In regards to those issues, right? And in that way, reclaim, right? And recover your sacred. That's what's important to you. What makes you who you really are, right? Self-defined, not predetermined, right? Like when the Spanish gave you their fucking name, they're trying to predetermine you, right? Okay, they're trying to act like they're your master, right? Your pet. You're their pet. They're your master, right? They're gonna train you. You know what I'm saying? And so to free yourself, to decolonize yourself from that training regimen,
Yeah.
We have to reclaim and recover our sacred. That means we have to question that false reality, right?
Yep.
We have to get uncomfortable with it. You understand what I'm saying?
And you know what, Aki? I wanted to share too a memory with our viewers. I remember vividly day one in your class, you wrote questions on the board, right? And you wrote, "Who are you?" There were 3 or 4 questions I remember, and one of the
There
first,
are 3 questions.
yeah.
The first question is, who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that's a question of identity based in your people's struggles for justice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Who am I? Right? The second question is, am I all I say I am?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's a question of congruence. Do my actions match what I say? Right? And I've included a warning with that, right? I said, for the women in class, if you've got a guy, you think he loves you, he says he loves you all the time, and takes you home and smacks you, run the hell away from him, because his words and his actions don't match. Mm-hmm. Right? He's trouble. You understand? Right? Save yourself. Run fast.
and you know what? One of the things that stood out to me, I was familiar with the American Holocaust. I was familiar with my history. You know, I'm learning. But I'm never going to forget how you would get the book American Holocaust and you would go through the pages, the images of Bartolomé de las Casas and how the killings happened to our ancestors. And you would tell the students, you would tell us, like, you say you're Spanish. These are Spaniards. This is what they did to your people. And you would walk around the whole classroom flipping the pages. And you would talk about, you know, because you had us write a biographical essay about ourselves, about our history. And then a few weeks later, that's when we got into the genocide of the Americas. And, you know, to watch the students' faces, people were in tears. You know, I saw people walking out of the classroom because everything that we're taught, that we're white identifying, that gives us privilege, that like, if we're raised to be that way, and then you get to this class, right? And then this is like in your face, like, this is what really happened to your ancestors. This is what really went down with the Spanish invasion and all this. Like, I'm never going to forget, like, students, the look in their face, like, what the heck? And mind you, there is Chicano studies already. There's all these other courses that we had been taking, but no one was presenting this information to us in such a way that was like the emotion and the knowledge was matching, and the way it impacted students. And I think I'm never going to forget that. Like, just, I looked at people's, you know, their eyes, and they were crying. People were crying, people walking out of the classroom. And, you know, I myself, I had known this history, but just to sit back and observe, you know, what you were doing as a professor, as bringing this truth and really putting a mirror to our faces that we've never seen before, right? And that was powerful to me. I was like, wow, like, to be able to speak the truth unapologetically and backing yourself up, right? You're backing your shit up. You're not just saying these things. Like, there's those articles, there's these books, there's these journals. And the way students, I think, took that knowledge from you, I think that was very transformative for a lot of people. So I think, you know, the power where you're talking about, you know, decolonizing and shifting how we're taught to be. Who am I? Am I everything I say I am? You know, and then how are we viewed in this outer society? How are we labeled and categorized and exploited for this capitalist system? You know, that really hits home, you know. And you teach at UCLA College, right? Like, predominantly brown and black students at that time in the early 2000s. You know, I wanted to ask you, like, what are some of the things that you remember with students? Like, how do they react to you? And I remember your syllabus says, if you don't want to hear the truth, if you don't want to know, like, what really happened, like, you can drop this class. Like, I'm not gonna, you know, sugarcoat it. I'm gonna challenge you. I'm gonna challenge your perspectives. And you're very upfront. Like, if you're not up for that, if you can't handle a different truth and different reality presented, like, feel free to drop this class. Like, it's okay, you know?
Yeah.
oh shit. Like, I was like, this is about to get real, you know? And if you could talk about that, like, how is it teaching students of color this very, very important information that's really decolonized, but in a way that's like, it's personal, because it becomes personal. Like, you're teaching this history, but if I didn't know my history at all, if I went through my whole life and all of a sudden I'm here at ELAC taking your class, your world crumbles, right? Your world that you had in your mind, what you thought things were, it really is deconstructed in front of you. You're like, oh shit. Like,
Yeah.
everything like that, is
Yeah.
not,
It's designed to do that.
yeah. So, like,
Right?
what has been your experience teaching students of color, and, you know, maybe the most rewarding for you, and the work that they get, the writing that they do. And one thing I do want to say, like, the fact that you would tell us the way you guys are writing like UC students. You guys are writing like some better than some of my UC students, because I know that you teach at also UC's campuses. And that really blew my mind, because it was like, wow, like, that's important for us to hear, right? For students of color at community colleges to hear that we're smart enough, that we're capable, we're, if not even better than some UC students. It's like, so I think the way you taught history, but at the same time kind of hitting those parts of the student psyche, of like the imposter syndrome, of the, you know, insecurity. Like, it was a very balanced way, I would say, of presenting history, because you did it in a way that, yes, I'm learning something new about who I am, but I'm also building up who I am as a student, who, like, my skills as a student, my writing. So I thought that was very powerful, because it's not just history telling. There's a whole academic part to being a professor. And, like, honestly, I didn't even see that part. I was so into the class and writing that you don't even see, but you're improving your writing skills, you're improving your critical thinking, you're improving. So that's one of the things that I took away, right? Was like, yes, knowledge of who I am, but also who am I as a student? What can I do in academia, and how can I interrupt this system, right, with truth, and being unapologetic with what we're doing. Like, you're talking about social justice. So
That's right.
can you talk about, like, some of those experiences and the most memorable for you, perhaps an exchange in the classroom or after class or something?
You know, I have to give credit where it's due. Okay. And so I spent a year studying under Paulo Freire, the pedagogy of the oppressed, right? And his theory on culture and power in education. And Freire concentrates on the focal, which is working with a small group of people like a classroom, right? And working on their conscientiousness, right? Not consciousness, their conscientiousness is different. What conscientiousness is discomfort. It's disrupting your reality, okay? It's all of a sudden pulling the veil off and going, look, this is what's happening, right? What do you think? All right? How does it make you feel? All right? Because this is how you became you, right? This is the process. It's based in violence, extreme, unbridled, non-lethal, and lethal violence, right? This is what brought you to where you are today. This history of violence, right? This history of hate, this history of control, right? And so for you to be true to who you are, right? I have to make you uncomfortable. And because of that deep discomfort that you feel, right? You need to engage. You need to engage. That's the only choice you have, right? You could disengage, and I tell people that's okay. Like you said, I tell people you could drop. If you can't deal with the controversy, you can't deal with this binary, then, you know, come back when you're ready, right? Okay. But if you're not ready now, you know, that doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? It just means you're not ready yet. And when you're ready, right, because now you know what the class is about, right, what you're going to get in this class, and you're going to have time to reflect on it. So when you're ready, come back. But if you decide to stay, right, I don't want to hear no whining and shit. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, right? Because there's the door, baby. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Okay? We're going to deal with this. And we're going to deal with this honestly. We're going to think about it, and we're going to feel it in our hearts, right? And how we respond to it comes from combining both, right? Comes from combining both. And that's conscientization. That's conscientization, okay? And so as a teacher, right, I'm also a student, because I have to place myself in your shoes. You understand what I'm saying? I have to know who I'm interacting with, what their experience is, where their hood is, right? How they came up, right? What the familia is like. You understand what I'm saying? I had to live it, right? I have to live it. Because if I didn't grow up in East LA and live with my tia Maria Gonzalez, with the Sandovals, with the Wilfreds, with the Jones, you know what I'm saying? I would not know Black culture. I would not know Mexican culture. I would not know Guatemaltecos. You understand what I'm saying? But I grew up with them,
Yeah.
right? And I grew up with Filipinos. I grew up with Koreans. I grew up with Chinese, right? And I think I even shared in class one of the things that my group of we used to call ourselves Spanky and the Gang, because everybody was represented, right, racially, right? And what we used to do on Sunday, we would call each other's homes. Hey, what's your mom cooking for dinner? What time, right? And we would line it up so that we could eat at 3 or 4 fucking homes the same Sunday and have different kind of food. I'm serious. And so Carlos' mom will say, oh man, my mom's cooking early. Everything's going to be ready at 4. And then we call up Kurt. Hey man, when's your mom going to have dinner? Oh, she's going to have dinner at 6. What are they having? Oh man, we having all kinds of stuff, barbecue, this stuff. So we go eat at Carlos's. Then we go to Kurt's. Then they come to my house. I'm surprised we didn't look like Goodyear blimps. and we're all athletes, you know what I'm saying? And so we're running from one house to the other house. And I mean, we ate like there were holes in our stomachs. And our moms would, you know, our moms would always look at us like, why are you guys always in a hurry? Go someplace on Sunday. Oh no, we just got to go say hi. And, you know, and we would time it just right. And so we could be eating Mexican food, then go eat Black food, and then go eat Korean food, or, you know what I'm saying? Right? It would be different. Every Sunday we would be eating different foods, you know. But it made us appreciate, because you got to learn family culture, right? How people do things in that family, right? How they eat, right? How they serve, what people like to eat and don't like to eat, and you know what I'm saying, right? And none of that applied to our friends, because we were all like Mikeys. We would eat everything. If our friend ate it, we ate it. If it didn't kill him, it ain't gonna kill us. You know what I mean? But that's how I broke into, before it was even called that, right? Mm-hmm. We were practicing multiculturalism.
Right.
Okay. And in visiting each other's homes and stuff, there ain't no damn way you can't get a history lesson. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Right? Because all the generations back then would talk. And so my friends could come over to my grandmother's house and talk to my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my grandfather, my mom and dad. You know what I'm saying? I can go over their house and talk to 3 or 4 fucking generations and their family, you know. And as you do those things, the conversation always turns towards, oh, well, you kids got it so good because back in our day, right, we didn't have no TV. All we had was a radio. You know what I mean? And maybe 1 out of 5 homes had a radio, so everybody show up at their house. You know what I'm saying? Right? And so you get these history lessons, right? And it sparks questions, right? And at the moment you go through the things, it doesn't hit you, right? But it's years later when you look back at those things that the questions start coming up. And that's one thing about me is curiosity. Once I want to find out something about something, I don't stop until I find out. I don't like to not have the information. Okay. And so there are some people who claim that race began in the 1455, right? Right around the 1400. Okay. And that's comfortable to them because this begins the biological racism period, right? That begins the biological racism period. Okay. But there's a racism that precedes the biological. Okay. And that's the religious racism period. That goes back to 1255 BCE. Okay. With Hebrew scripture. Hebrews and Christians, Jews and Christians, they don't like to talk about that period. They want to talk about 1455 on, right? But 1455 on was a product of religious racism. And so let's start at the beginning, right? If you, as a Christian or Jew, right, are unwilling to hold your religion accountable for its racisms, then you're racist. You're complicit in those racisms, whether you want to admit it or not. And your actions prove it because you don't want to hear about it, right? I don't hear you, I don't see you, I don't talk about it, it don't exist to me, right? Fuck you, it exists.
For time's sake, just to start wrapping it up, two questions I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Number one, what advice do you have for students of color primarily, who are in academia, who are taking history courses? Like, what is some of the things that you want them to learn about themselves, about academia, about, you know, how they can succeed without, you know, selling their soul to academia? Like, how do you remain who you are in academia? How do you not sell your soul to selling out to capitalism, to white supremacy, to, you know, because that's a question I get a lot, because a lot of people that we meet, unfortunately, once they go to academia, the white supremacist beast takes them and they forget who they are, they forget where they're from, you know, they forget their community. So
well, what's happening in what you're describing is there's a displacement. Okay. And individualism, right, is the foundation of capitalism. Okay. But so too are racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, right? Okay. Are the foundations of capitalism. All right. And individualism is what makes racism, sexism, homophobia, and xenophobia operational. Because it's about an individual controlling these populations, right? And so it's always a hierarchy, right? Where the rub is, I don't want to use the term conflict because we're talking about a transition, a displacement, right? And if something can be transitioned this way and displaced this way, it can be transitioned and displaced back. Okay. And so let's understand it as a process. And what is it that each process is founded upon, right? And so this side, we have individualism, racism, sexism, all this stuff in capitalism. The other side needs to be mass-based in community, right? Mass-based in community, okay? And so this begins self-determination. Who defines what the community is? Is the community defined external to the community, or is it defined internal to the community, right? Which definition is true, right? You understand what I'm saying? Because the one that's imposed always leaves shit out, right? Where the one that's created from within, nothing's left out, right? It includes everything, all of us, right? It includes all of our experience, all of our contributions, all of our needs, right? Nobody's left out, right? And it's not about us controlling anybody except our destiny, our present and our future. That's destiny, right? Okay. And so how or what are the methods, right? What are the processes that we have to bring with us? What are the analytics? What are the theories that we have to bring forward with us into everything we do, right? That transitions people back into the mass and the community, right? Something more important than them, something larger than them, right? Something that their knowledge acquisition, their knowledge archives that they're getting from these institutions can be used to help move forward, right? You understand what I'm saying? And so not only do we have to transition and displace mainstream kinds of behavioralisms, psychologicalisms, emotionalisms, we have to replace that, displace that with something new, right? Something that makes you feel that you're part of something, not alienated from it, right? That you're with something, not above it, right? But you're moving with something, right?
Yeah.
And so you may recall in class I talked about leadership models, right? You could lead from the front of the group. That means everybody got to follow you. Sometimes the people in the rear get lost, right? Okay. You could lead from the back of the group, right? And then the front of the people in front trip and fall because they don't know where they're going, right? Or you could lead from the middle of the group, from within the group, right? Everybody moves together, right? Everybody moves together because you're not in the front, you're not in the back, you're in the middle. and you're taking care of everybody around you and making sure everybody's moving forward. Okay. And so, again, when we look at, as Paulo Freire said, right, we have to use people's culture to empower them, right? To empower them, to show them, to reveal to them where their sacred is. Here. The sacred is already here, right? You're just not in touch with it, right? Okay, you've been detached from it, right? Because you've been socialized, you've been brainwashed, you've been lied to in education to turn you into an individual and demassify you, decommunalize you, right? To make you an individual. You understand what I'm saying? We need to bring you fucking back home. Right? Yep. And so when we welcome people, when we love people, when we include people, when we have faith in people, that's love. Right? It's not warm and fuzzy shit, baby. Right? We're not talking warm and fuzzy, right? Because there's tough love too. Right? There's tough love too. Right. And one thing I learned about Paulo, right? The way that you show people how you love them isn't warm and fuzzy. It's not the, oh, let's hug every time we see each other. Oh, no. The way you show people the strength of your love is how you struggle with them. Okay. And I don't mean struggle like in a conflict, but enter a struggle with them, right? We're going into this together, right? We're all going to struggle through this, right? Okay. What better place to do that than in a classroom? Right?
Absolutely.
Because I got your full fucking attention, right? In a layer of ways, right? And it never fails. Every fucking semester I teach this class, about halfway through, I'll get student questions like, Aki, do you know what my grade is in class? And I always laugh just like that when I get those questions, because who gives a fuck what your grade is? Right? And my response always is, if you continue to improve your writing and continue to learn how to use facts to tell the story, not you, right? Keep your bullshit to yourself, right? Let the facts speak for you, right? You understand what I'm saying? And you know where you're getting your facts from, right? Because all the sources are listed, right? You know what I'm saying? You're going to get A's, and other people are going to be wondering how you do it, right? And that's when you reach across the classroom and say, hey, you want to work together on the next paper, right? Hey, you want to sit down and form a study group? Because it ain't about me kicking everybody's ass in the class. It's about me helping everybody in class get the best grade. Well, you know, I look at it like fishing, right? When you take a bunch of people fishing and only one person's catching a lot of fish, 9 people are not having fun, right? You understand?
Yeah.
They're looking at the guy catching fish going, maybe we should flatten his tires. Maybe we should throw his bait in the lake. You know what I'm saying? Maybe we should throw him in the lake. Right? Yeah. And so rather than make it cutthroat, rather than make it stab each other in the back competition kind of thing, let's create an atmosphere where we help each other move forward.
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. You understand?
Yep.
Right? This is a focal. And so that year I spent with Paulo. He was a guest lecturer at Loyola Marymount here in Westchester, right? For 2 years. And when I heard he was coming, I was working at Loyola. I was in a master's higher ed higher educational policy and race, right? And I extended my master's program a year just so I could attend his seminar. The first day I got there, it was like in a breakout room, right? That can hold about 200 people. And there was a chair put on a fake stage, and all the chairs were like in a semicircle around that stage, right? Well, I got there half an hour early, and every fucking chair had a white person in it.
Oh.
Okay. And so I said, you know, I was going to quit. I was going to just walk the fuck out because this ain't my cup of tea. But instead, because I had all of Paulo Freire's books in my hand, right? I wanted to talk to him about certain things in each of his books, right, that I had questions about. And so I had his books in my hand. And I thought, well, shit, I paid the money. I might as well stay, at least wave at him when he comes in surrounded by a ring of whiteness. You know what I mean? Maybe he'll notice me, you know. And so he came in, did his 45-minute thing, and then we took a break, right? And everybody was crowding around him, around the stage. You know, it's break time. You're supposed to get the fuck out, go stretch, leave him the fuck alone for a little while. You know what I mean? And so I walked out of the auditorium at Loyola, went to the Bluff, smoked a fucking joint, came back. And then I walked in, and Paulo goes, you over there, come over here. And I didn't think he was talking to me, right? And so I sat back down. He goes, you, the one sitting down with my books in his hands, come here. And I said, damn, he got, you know, he's like in the 70s and shit. He got some damn good eyes. And so white folk parted like the Red Sea, right? And he goes, you've been sitting off in the back, not joining the group. Why are you doing that? And I said, well, I wanted to take your seminar, but I see that your attention is taken up by more than I had thought of, right? And so I doubt that I could be part of this. And so I was going to drop, right? And he goes, you're going to what? And I said, I was going to drop. And he goes, what? Tell me the one reason you wanted to work with me. And I said, well, I've read all your books. I try and incorporate people's culture into the classroom experience so that they can regain their power as human beings, right? And he says, can you wait till the end of the session and talk to me afterwards? And I said, sure. He says, no, okay, so you can go back and sit in the corner. He goes, don't go to sleep, and make sure you remember to talk to me at the end of the seminar. And I said, okay, sure. So I did. And he said, I don't want you in the seminar. And I thought, oh, fuck, you know, damn, I was going to drop it if you don't want me. And he goes, no. You're going to study with me one-on-one. And I looked at him and I said, really? Why me? Right? Because that's an honor. You understand what I'm saying? That's a fucking honor that he's giving me. And it made me uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't think that I deserved that shit. And I asked him, why me? He says, nobody's ever fucking asked me. I've been in the United States 25 years. I've been trying to teach people about the focal. And I asked you to tell me one damn thing that's important for you to get out of this seminar. And without even saying it, you describe the focal. And I said, well, isn't that the foundation of your methodology? Why should I have to speak about it? I want to talk about how to deploy it, how to employ it, how to make it live, how to make it come alive for my students, right? Because when it comes alive in front of them, they can't reject it. They can't push it away. You understand what I'm saying? They can't put a blanket over it because it's going to keep coming the fuck up.
Yeah. Aki, with time's sake now, we're going to have to cut it now. It's been going on 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
But no, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your passion, for your guidance, and for kicking ass all these years. And it's something that you don't get to see much, but I'm here to tell you that you've impacted my life. And a lot of people that I've met, that when I mention you, they're always like, "Oh yes, Aki." So know that your work is used, is transforming people. And, I just wanted to say, anything you want to tell people that are watching this, this is going to go on YouTube and different social media outforms. That's part of how I see education. I think I use social media to get the information out there. The more people that know, the better. Like, I'm just trying to share all this beautiful knowledge with anyone that wants to know. Anything you want to say to people watching this, like the last 2 minutes of our talk tonight?
At the foundation of my approach to teaching is a deeply entrenched love for other people. Okay. And if you don't have that deeply entrenched love for the people you're supposed to be teaching, you can't teach them. You can't teach them. Because teaching is about reaching into that person's soul, right? And touching it, right? And touching it. And it's that moment when your insides feel insecure and discomforted and discombobulated, where the questions start to flow, right? Where the questions start to flow. Because it's too late to fucking panic after that. We beyond panic, you know what I'm saying? It's like, oh my God, right? We beyond panic. And so we have to shape, create, envision, and dream about what the future is going to be like, right? And that can only come from loving yourself. Right? This is what we need to teach each other, is how to love each other. You understand? Right? Because without that, there is no forward movement. Without that, there is no unity. Without that, there is no community. Right? That is not based in individualism. I love all my students, not just the ones that do well. Okay? Because the ones who don't do well are the ones who need my love the most. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? And when they come back and take a second class from me, right? I know that it's the love that brought them back, right? And now I also know they're going to improve. They're going to move forward. Right? They're going to achieve higher levels of where they want to go. Okay. And so, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, a teacher plants seeds, right? But we never see that seed blossom into a plant, and that plant blossom into a beautiful, flowery creature contributing to the beauty of the world, right? That can happen 5 years, 10 years, 20 years away from now, right? But I know that those seeds are going to blossom, right? And so students have to have faith in themselves, right? by having faith in others. We have to help each other move forward. We don't stand alone. We never stand alone. There's always an army of fucking people behind us, right? It's just like I tell my students, this is my army, baby. This is the army that stands with me. Everywhere I go, right? Everywhere I go, they go with me, right? They go with me. And so you're not standing alone, right? All the people that struggled before you were even born, right? They're part of you. They're part of your history, your experience, right? We need to reclaim that, right? And recover it, right? You understand what I'm saying? Right? So that we claim who we are and how we move forward, right? That includes everybody. That includes the animals. That includes the environment. That includes the atmosphere, right? Anything that infects or affects how people and the environment move forward, that's what's important. Okay? Because, you know, there may be a time where fuck money. It won't have no place in society. That time's coming soon. Okay? Capitalism, it's going like this right now. And COVID's exposing that, right? We have to create something new. And we can't be afraid about it. We can't let white folks scare the fuck out of us. They don't scare me. You know, I just go, you go stand over there and shut the fuck up.
Beautifully said, Aki. Beautifully said, Aki. And again, thank you for your time, for sharing your own history with all of us. And I can't wait to hopefully see you soon once this COVID thing completely clears. And again, thank you for your time. Again, this has been Professor Aki, great professor from East LA College to UC Irvine. He's taught so many places, and a great example of truth-telling in history. Much needed perspective in academia is what he represents, a future of history, and hopefully students are taking to heart everything that you're doing. So again, Aki, thank you for your time. And with that, I'm going to conclude tonight's interview. This has been Citlalli with Mexican Excellence. The video series is called Decolonizing Academia. And we have chatted a very beautifully lengthy conversation, much needed conversation with Professor Aki Maehara. Thank you so much, Aki. Thank you for your time. You have a beautiful night.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.